Long before the double helix became an icon of modern science, the quest to unravel the mysteries of DNA was a winding path filled with fierce competition, unheralded pioneers, and ethical controversies that still echo today. The story most people know is the triumph of James Watson and Francis Crick, two brilliant scientists who unlocked the very blueprint of life. But the truth behind the discovery of DNA structure is much more complicated. A tale of ambition, overlooked genius, and research acquired under questionable circumstances. The early 20th century was a time of seismic change in biological research. Scientists had begun to suspect that somewhere within the nucleus of every cell lay the secret code by which traits and heredity were passed from one generation to the next. For decades, proteins were believed to be the keepers of this information. DNA was dismissed as a repetitive, uninteresting molecule, incapable of bearing such complex instructions. Only in the 1940s did mounting evidence begin to shift this belief, setting the stage for a new scientific gold rush. In the heart of Cambridge, England, at the Cavendish Laboratory, two young men, Watson, an ambitious American biologist, and Crick, a British physicist with an unbridled curiosity, caught wind of this intellectual upheaval. Eager to claim a scientific legacy, they formed an unlikely partnership, devoting themselves to the race to decode DNA structure. Yet they were not alone. Across the Atlantic, Linus Pauling, a towering figure in chemistry, was chasing the same prize. Closer to home at King's College London, a group led by Maurice Wilkins and, crucially, Rosalind Franklin, was painstakingly X-raying DNA fibers, capturing images that would soon prove pivotal. Rosalind Franklin, though lesser known in the broader public imagination, was a brilliant and meticulous scientist. Her expertise in X-ray crystallography allowed her to photograph molecules with unprecedented precision. Her now famous photograph 51 revealed the distinctive X-shaped pattern of the DNA molecule, unmistakable evidence of a helical structure. But Franklin's careful and rigorous approach set her apart from the more speculative Watson and Crick, whose philosophy in science was often model first, test later. In 1951, Franklin arrived at King's College, where she found a research environment that was, in many ways, inhospitable. The department was segregated by gender, and Franklin encountered both overt and subtle discrimination. Communication between Wilkins and Franklin soon broke down. Unbeknownst to Franklin, Wilkins showed Watson the critical photograph 51 without her permission. This image, along with a report summarizing Franklin's yet unpublished data, became the linchpin in Watson and Crick's pursuit. On that fateful viewing, Watson was stunned. The cross-shaped pattern in the X-ray photo immediately suggested to him that DNA was a double helix, a revelation that would have taken far longer without Franklin's groundwork. With this new evidence, Watson and Crick rushed to build their own physical model, drawing heavily not just on published findings, but also on Franklin's data, acquired secondhand and without her knowledge. With the model assembled and the structure deduced, Watson and Crick hurriedly wrote their landmark paper, submitting it to Nature in April 1953. In an accompanying note, Franklin and her student Raymond Gosling published their own observations, largely separated from the fanfare. The significance of Franklin's contributions was minimized at the time. The triumph belonged in the public's eye to Watson and Crick. For decades, the story remained largely one of a scientific partnership rewarded for its genius. When in 1962, Watson, Crick, and Wilkins were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, Rosalind Franklin's name was nowhere to be found. She had died of ovarian cancer in 1958 at just 37, her work and life cut tragically short. But as historians and scientists revisited the events leading up to the discovery, the shadows behind the glory became visible. Watson, in his memoir, The Double Helix, wrote with both candor and insensitivity about the backroom dealings, the intellectual rivalries, and the crucial, if uncredited, role of Franklin's research. More and more, the world began to ask, was DNA's most famous discovery stained by a fundamental ethical breach? Some argue that science is by its nature a collective endeavor. Breakthroughs often arise from the convergence of dozens or even hundreds of experimental threads. In the case of Watson and Crick, Franklin's data was essential, but did not, by itself, tell the complete story. It was the synthesis of structural chemistry, model building, and comparative research that produced the answer. Yet others contend that Franklin was more than just a footnote, that her precision, intelligence, and vision were systematically overlooked and, in some ways, appropriated in the heat of the competition. The real controversy centers not just on the use of Franklin's data, but on the ways that gender, hierarchy, and the drive for recognition shaped the scientific landscape. Franklin faced barriers that her male colleagues did not, from lack of institutional support to being excluded from critical discussions. Her diaries and letters reveal a scientist deeply committed to rigor, often exasperated by the lack of respect accorded to her by the broader scientific community. Beyond Franklin, the story brings into relief the broader issues that permeate scientific discovery. Who gets to be remembered as a genius? How do credit, collaboration, and competition intertwine in the pursuit of knowledge? The discovery of DNA structure was a triumph of intellect, but it was also a demonstration of the human flaws and ethical blind spots that can accompany ambition. Today, efforts to honor Franklin's memory have gained momentum. Awards and foundations now bear her name, and scientists worldwide recognize the grace and determination she brought to her work. Yet the tale remains a cautionary one, a reminder that behind every monumental discovery are countless stories of sacrifice, rivalry, and too often sidelined brilliance. In the end, the dark truth behind DNA's discovery is not just about a single photograph or a missed Nobel Prize. It is a reflection on our collective memory, a challenge to listen more deeply, to question well-worn narratives, and to acknowledge the diverse talents and voices that drive science forward. Because history, much like DNA itself, is built from many interwoven strands, some seen, some hidden, all essential. If you've enjoyed uncovering these untold stories and gaining a deeper understanding of history's hidden figures, don't forget to support our channel. Liking this content helps us reach more curious minds, while your comments spark important conversations and let us know what discoveries intrigue you most. Subscribe to Flashback Discoveries for more fascinating journeys into the past, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on every new story we share. Your engagement makes a difference.